heard about them, those immigrant parents, grandparents that came to this country. The one, my dad said, is 3 things that will make you successful. Work, work, and work. That was it. Everything was work. So when I went out in my first campaign, it's a pretty important year in my life, 1990. I met the woman I loved the year before, and we got married that year in 1990, and went out and decided to run for Congress, and we went out and knocked on doors. That's how we were able to win. We knocked on almost 20,000 doors running for Congress. And I'll tell you a little story about one of those instances and what knocking for doors it was in Upper St. Clair, which is outside of Pittsburgh. Nice little neighborhood. It was one of those neighborhoods that was a development. You went in and, well, it was sort of a self-contained. It was one way in, one way out. So I parked it was an August afternoon. It was very hot. And I parked in the entrance of the development. Started working up one side of the street all by myself. I didn't have a whole passel of volunteers, even though I was running for Congress. No one gave me a chance. In fact, there was a poll taken. A pollster that I hired, he took a poll in April of that year and gave me the poll results. He wouldn't even call me. He just sent me a memo. And he said, "You have no chance." He said, "Your name recognition is 6%. And this was 5 months before the election. And you have no money." He said, "You have a name recognition of 6%. Well, I picked up the phone and called him. I said, "Wait a minute, that's pretty good. You know, Santorum isn't a household name or anything. It's not like Smith. You know, everybody's going to recognize somebody named Smith. You know my name. You actually know my name." And he said, "Rick," he said, "on any survey, 8% of the people will say they know somebody, whether they know them or not. So you're 2% below nobody." Undeterred. Undeterred. We went out and kept knocking on doors, as I did that day. So I'm walking, I figure it's about a 4-hour thing looking at the street lists. And so I'm about halfway through the neighborhood, back in a cul-de-sac. I knock on the door, and this little elderly lady comes to the door, and my stick is, we all know this. I bet you about half the room here has knocked on doors at one period of time, maybe more. And so I had my little brochure. I knocked on the door. She came to the door. She had a little dog that was barking, and I said, "Hi, I'm Rick Santorum. I'm running for Congress." I opened up the screen door to slip around the brochure. She looked at me and goes, "Oh, you look so hot." She goes, "Why don't you come in for a glass of water?" What do you do when someone comes in and says to come in and ask for a glass of water? Oh, no, you don't go. I don't go. No, you never stop. You just keep going. Otherwise, you're not going to get your doors in. And I said, "No, ma'am, thank you very much." No, she says, "I insist. You look really warm. You really need to come in." And I said, "No, ma'am, thank you very much." And she insisted, so of course she insisted. I said, "Fine." I was 2 hours in. Okay, a little water wouldn't hurt. And she comes in and she goes, "Well, no, come on in and sit down." I said, "No, I'll come in, but I have water, but no, I'm not going to come and sit." No, I insist. Well, I knew what she was going to do, so I said, "Okay, fine." So I went in and sat down. Now her dog is running around barking, and she goes in and gets her glass of water, and I sit down, and I come back, and she hands me the glass of water, and the dog jumps up and hops in my lap. Okay, fine. So I pet the dog, have a sip or two of water. We're chatting. The next thing I know, there is a warm sensation on my lap. And I jump up, and on my tan pants is a huge wet spot where you don't want a huge wet spot. And so I jumped up to look at it, and she was aghast. She reached for my pants and said, "Let me dry that off." I backed away and said, "No, that'll be fine." She goes, "Let me get a hairdryer." Heaven forbid. And she goes, I said, "No, thank you very much." I start to move out the door. She goes, "Well, take your pants off. I'll put them in the dryer." That was the last I heard from her because I was out the door. So now I'm walking down the sidewalk at the end of the sidewalk. I'm 2 hours into my walk. I'm a mile at least from where my car is. It's still lots of daylight left. What do? Undeterred, I soldiered on. Figured it's August afternoon. There weren't that many people home in the first place. It's a hot day. It'll dry. So I look at my sheet, and I say, "Well, who's the next door?" Well, The next door is a name I recognized. Anybody remember the closer for the 1979 World Champion Pittsburgh Pirates? Kent Tekulve, correct. That's Kent Tekulve's house next door. What's the chance he's going to be home? So I go striding up confidently to the door, knowing full well he's not home, and I gently knock on the door. So I wait, 3 or 4 seconds and start writing my notes. Sorry, I missed you, Mr. Tekulve. I'm about to put it in the door, and the door opens. And there stands between me and the screen door. The screen door is between me and him, Kent Tekulve. And I take my brochure, and I get closer to the door, so the bottom part of the screen door covers what needed to be covered. And I said, "Hi, Mr. Tekulve, I'm Rick Santorum, I'm running for Congress," and I go to open the door to slip it around, and he pushes the door open as I back up, and he does this. Then he looks back up at me. And I say to him, "Mr. Tekulve, I'm so excited to meet you." That is a true story. Every word of it. And I got Kent Tekulve's vote, I'll have you know.